I'm Rita Gentilly, and I'm the Executive Director and Curator of the Sculpture Expo 2013, 14, 15, co-curator with Conrad Levinson. I organize and manage the networking and the communications between the village officials, the property owners, the sculptors, and the collaborative community members like Historic Red Hook and the Red Hook Public Library.
What's it like working with sculptors?
Wonderful. They're usually people with motivation and drive and vision, and often have a good sense of humor. I've had the fortune of working with older, experienced sculptors and young, up-and-coming sculptors who work in all diverse materials and techniques, ways of coming about their work, and it's been a very pleasant experience, and it's also been very pleasant to watch the sculptors work with the village together. We've gotten the village highway department, for instance, to assist with installation, and that's amongst my happiest experiences with the entire show, to watch, for instance, Binnie Miggs working with David Cohen, a former mayor, with the boom and putting in these large granite pieces. I think this year's show is bigger and better, and I'm learning more how to work it and how to get it done. And I've been able to then add to the endeavor by I've been able to add a calendar of events which are related to sculpture, and will open the communication with the community as to what is sculpture, what it entails to have sculpture in our midst, what it entails to have art in our community, this kind of thing, to engage the community. So I've been able to institute these other aspects of just what was purely an exhibit. When visitors come to Red Hook, along with the historic setting and buildings and the particular architecture that remains in Red Hook, they will have these modern sculpture and this exhibit to lead them on forward and compel them to walk through the village and really get to know the place, and maybe perhaps visit our businesses and see how friendly and engaging the village can be.
I'm Conrad Levinson. I'm a sculptor, and I'm in Red Hook, New York for the annual Sculpture Expo. I'm standing in front of the historic Red Hook Elmendorf building, where I have 6 sculptures in my On the Cutting Edge series. These pieces are based on antique ice saws that were used to harvest ice from the Hudson River. So I take these pieces and compose them into sculptures, adding various new geometric elements to them. In conjunction with my exhibit, there's an exhibit at the historic Elmendorf about the history of ice harvesting in the Hudson River. These sculptures are all flexible because the saw blades are long and thin and are free to move either in response to touch or in the breeze. This piece, called Self-Centered, is made up of a single saw blade with circular elements attached and an upreaching arc at the top. And you can see that when I touch it, it sways back and forth because the blades are very flexible in response to touch or to the wind. The village of Red Hook is a traditional agricultural village in the Hudson Valley, and it has a lot of artists have moved here and now live and work here. So this is the third year for the annual Sculpture Expo here, and there are, in this year's show there are 9 artists and 18 works, and I'm very pleased to be able to participate in this show. The pieces are scattered throughout the center of the village and kind of integrated into the daily life of the people who live here and people who come to visit, and it'll be available to be seen from June through November.
I'm Dave Chanin, and I'm here in Red Hook in Veterans Park with the thinker. He's got a pot head, you know, and a six-pack of abs. And you know, a lot of my sculptures actually have a story behind them, like I find something that makes me think about a horse or makes me think about a bird. And in this case, it's kind of ironic because it's a thinker, but there wasn't any one single thing that just triggered my idea. Of course, I've always loved Rodin, and the amazing thing about Rodin, and I'll be brief, is that he's famous for having his figures in poses that are physically impossible. And not physically impossible, but very, very hard to pull off. So, for example, this is not really the actual pose of the thinker. The actual thinker pose is this elbow on this knee, like this, and he's like this, and his other hand is like this, and he's really like in a super crunch, like that. It's very uncomfortable. But this one is more leisurely. He's got this left elbow on the left knee. Artistic license in this case. But
What's he made out of?
he's made out of scrap metal. This piece here is pretty interesting. This was probably from like a horse and buggy of some kind. It might have held like straps for a wagon. It's got cobbler's feet, you know, for chomping on things, and a little bit of gift from the highway department down below here.
Show me that again.
For the highway department, down this piece down here on the bottom. And yeah, so that's a thinker. He's got a lot of pondering, a lot of heavy thoughts, so he's got to keep his head tucked in there real good. And congratulations for, you know, being in the show here in Red Hook, and that's all I have to say.
Is he meant to? Are people meant to move the pieces around?
I would say that if you touch the sculpture with respect and common, you know, consideration, it's fine. It's not the kind of thing like if you touch it and the oil from your finger gets in it and destroys it or something. You don't touch the unicorn tapestry or whatever, you know, Mona Lisa, you don't touch the Mona Lisa.
As a kid, like many kids, I was always fascinated by the Easter Island heads. I'm Eric Camille, and I did these pieces behind me. To me, they represent the gods of Oceania. The Easter Island heads motivated me as a child. It created a whole aura of mystery. A lot of my work has to do with some sense of what is the Godhead. The benign God, the angry God. These figures represent a little of both. The question of the Old Testament God versus the New Testament God, the nature of the Godhead, which is, you know, fairly interesting to me, particularly because I'm a non-believer.
What are they made out of?
These are recycled sailboat rudders.
Cool.
They're fiberglass on aluminum or stainless steel frames.
And So they're meant to be outside in public display.
They're meant to live underwater. They're obviously upside down for others. And in fact, the inspiration came when I saw these. They were all damaged in some way. I was in the boatyard and saw them stacked up against the wall and said, "Those are figures."
What's it like being here in Red Hook?
Well, having my work out here in such a beautiful setting, in a community that cares about the arts, that's dedicated to the arts, is a thrill. You know, for an artist, the main thing is to get your work seen, to have people experience it. That's why you make it.
My name is Leon Smith, and I work in Ancramdale, Columbia County. I have a piece in the Red Hook show called Calypso. The reason for that is that I spent quite a few years in the Caribbean as a winter place. It was a very peaceful island, and the natives of that island controlled everything. So, which is not the case in other islands. So they're very trustful and helpful. And the colors are bright, and they are island colors. And then the people that live there build houses and paint them in nice colors.
Tell us about the shapes.
The shapes are shapes I've been working with for a long time. There's some parts of a semicircle there. There's a cone, a quarter cone, and these are basic shapes for an architect. So, but if you cut them in different directions, they look quite original, like new forms. And so I don't throw much out. So after many years, I collect a library of shapes, and I play with them and join them together, and then lo and behold, you have a sculpture. Even by turning it upside down, you get something interesting. And the first maquette is a small one. I can fit it in the palm of my hand, and I quickly look at it from different angles, different sides, make sure it looks good in 3D. I was invited to show some sculptures last year in Red Hook, and again this year, and I was happy to submit 2 sculptures. And I think that the town should have permanent sculptures up, so it can be more distinguished. Red Hook is a sleepy town, which is sort of under the umbrella of Rhinebeck. But if people want to be a little bit out of the action, away from it, they will come to Red Hook. And it seems to have a lot of artists around here that congregate in Red Hook.
And how do you feel about your work being displayed in Red Hook?
I think that the sites that were chosen to be very compatible with the sculptures. In fact, they may enhance them.
And your piece is in front of the library. How do you feel about that?
The piece I have is in front of the library, and I like that because most people that walk into the library pay a little attention to the sculptures, and they're more in tune with the arts.